Although today, as always, I'm going to talk about how to resolve chronic pain in your body, specifically in your glute area or in your lower abdominal area, which are spots that are very common when it comes down to postural asymmetries, pelvic tilt, AIC patterns. Yet briefly wanted to touch another sensitive topic, why your occlusion in your teeth and your mandible position may not actually have that dramatic impact onto your lower or even sometimes upper body pain and also lateral pelvic tilt. Despite this information being very popular and this concept being very popular on the YouTube. The inspiration for today's video came from my patient Mike, who actually already been exposed to dental work in PRI, but without any luck in regards to his pelvis alignment and pain. And although I do acknowledge that everything impacts holistically everything, and your occlusion can have some impact onto your posture and as a system as a whole, yet when it comes down to pain resolution, it's still very important to take into consideration years of wrong programming, years of wrong patterns of motion, years of wrong position of the pelvis and wrong habits that you have accumulated.
It was always about the teeth, and your teeth need to touch to give your brain the signal, and without that, you can't fix me. Whereas you haven't even asked about that, and you fixed me. What was that about?
So today I wanted to represent for your attention a case study of my patient who previously went through postural restoration therapy with someone else without much of the success, but after our coaching, tremendous shift happened in his body.
There was a point where I was a little bit hopeless, and I thought I was just going to have to live with pain. But now I can do everything. I can, one of the bigger things for me was taking my child out to learn how to ride a bike. I don't wake up the next day in, 7, 8 out of 10 pain like it was before. General day to day, I don't even notice the pain anymore. It's completely changed my outlook on the rest of my life, really.
So I will show you what we have done differently and why PRI can be utilized very much differently from specialist to specialist.
I like the way that the exercises were designed to pretty much, force my body into the right position again. I've never had that previously.
Lastly, I'll show you one very awesome exercise that you can utilize safely at home to initiate some changes in the body. If your system was habitually improperly aligned for years and that became a learned nature of your muscles, then no matter how much you are implying vision or occlusional tweaks, that will not fully fix the situation. In Mike's case, his hips were leaning forward way too much, which resulted in so-called PAC pattern. Both of his hip flexors, lower abdominal area was tight and painful. Both of his glutes, but mostly the right one, was painful and larger. The left neck was painful. Yet the number one problem was originating from his lower body. Both of his pelvises were falling forward and were using way too much of the tension of the hip flexors. For instance, in this test, both of his femurs will not move downwards. They both got stuck in a flexion because both of hip flexors are tight and shortened. Now you can see when he walks, there is no much alternation. Both of his pelvises are not moving up and down as they should. Yes, he leans over the right a bit more than to the left, yet still there is no proper alternation either to the right or to the left side. Unlike my previous patients from my YouTube channel, Mike developed more classical appearance of the pelvic tilt on the right side, more classical AIC pattern, which can be already observed on the MRI, which suggests the changes are more permanent, more structural, because he was in that condition for such a long period of time. But nonetheless, we still was able to flip it and change it in 5 months of the therapy. Just look how he walks now, how both of the pelvises are moving up and down.
What I do feel now is when I plant my left foot, my left glute and my left side switches on, and it feels as if it pulls me across more. It switches on and I can shift to that side now. And that was the difference, where before I felt as if I couldn't physically get to that side. I couldn't pull my hips across properly. I feel as if when I'm walking now, because my left side switches on, I feel as if I'm shifting my weight properly now. Whereas before I felt as if I couldn't get to that side and I couldn't pull my hips across to that side.
Yet before addressing directly the lateral pelvic tilt, we firstly had to address his tendencies of the pelvis to lean forward, because otherwise your body will not give you the biomechanical access to shift you from right to left.
Yeah, my name's Mike, and I'm from the north of England. It was probably about 8 years I was in pain for, following an injury, whereby I just felt a pop in my back, and then I woke up the next day and I was twisted. My hip and my ribs on the right side had closed together, and then that was it. I felt pain pretty much from that day forward. I got a lot of pain in my glute on the right side, a lot of pain in my lower back. Yeah, it was just pretty much all of my lower back was just like a radiating pain across all of my back. My stomach as well, lower stomach, always felt like it was being pulled. So like the muscle was being
On both sides?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It felt like, my hips were pointing to the floor and they were really pulling on that lower abdominal muscle, and that was quite uncomfortable. And then I got a lot of pain in my left shoulder underneath my shoulder blade, like a nipping pain, and that was really troublesome for me, quite often in the trap and up my neck as well. So they were my main symptoms, but generally just felt just really bad everywhere. To be fair, I was in a bad position. So that therapist on and off, so it was a bit unusual. He focused a lot on my teeth and my mouth and my palate. And said that my teeth needed to be all touching in certain places, with very few exercises, a couple of stretches, a couple of exercises. And I did feel some relief initially, but then it stagnated, and because I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. And then I got overwhelmed by the pain again, decided to give him another go, but ultimately, quite quickly after that, just thought he wasn't the right guy for me. So yeah, I probably saw him on and off for a couple of years, I would say. PRI accredited therapist in my country, England.
Okay. Here are basically 3 things that we have done differently with Mike that led to successful resolution of his problem. But before diving even into these things, just think about that. What we have to restore is ability of your brain to have control over certain muscles. So you basically have to be self-aware how your pelvis is moving. You have to be in a way your own therapist afterwards. Because the idea is not to make you addictive to me, but you being able to self-control your body. Previously, with his previous therapist, yes, he was served a lot of awesome techniques and exercises, but they never created a lasting changes. Because by the moment he exited the office and he started to walk as usual, to stand as usual, to utilize his body as usual, it just was not enough to create lasting changes. That's why we develop a lot of additional tweaks and habits, daily habits, to make sure these exercises are slowly changing his posture as a whole. The first thing we done differently, we fixed his sagittal plane. Basically, both of his pelvises were leaning forward from this position to this position, which led to bilateral strain and painful area in his lower abdominal due to hip flexor strain. With our online work, it was the first time ever Mike received a roadmap of the exercises. So it was a progressive therapy, from something simple to something challenging, in order to evoke permanent changes in his posture. We did that not just with one magic exercise. We did that as a whole system tweak. Feet awareness, knee flexion, hamstring awareness on both sides, pelvic floor management, lower back changes of its position, and lastly, your brain has to sense that this is a safe place to stay. But initially, as we started to implement certain changes, he just felt very unusual about that.
So I was stood probably like this,
Yeah,
with a tiny bit of flex.
yeah,
But as I'm standing more like this, straight away I feel my hips tuck under,
yeah.
and then I feel all the tension from my spine and my back just release. It's unnatural. It feels unnatural, but it also feels nice. It takes a lot of pressure off my lower back and upper back. I feel as if from the hip upwards I straighten up straight away.
So far, you're doing this a little bit. You have to move yourself gently more backwards to be more natural, to be more close to the nature. That's what I wanted to say. After we develop this mind-muscle connection, strength of the muscles and positions, new positions, we slowly started to push his pelvis from right to left. The right pelvis has to come down in his situation, the left pelvis has to come up in his situation, which will decrease the tension from his glutes.
I feel like quite a lot of my pain relief has been because my hamstring on my left side, a little bit of my abductor, and then my glute medius on the left side, they've all really come on because I've really worked on them. What I do feel now is when I plant my left foot, my left glute and my left side switches on, and it feels as if it pulls me across more. It switches on, and I can shift to that side now. And that was the difference where before I felt as if I couldn't physically get to that side. I couldn't pull my hips across properly. I feel as if when I'm walking now, because my left side switches on, I feel as if I'm shifting my weight properly now.
But what about your right glute right now? Is that painful anymore?
No.
No. Okay.
No, my glutes feel okay.
So again, another 10 or 15 exercises only to address the frontal plane ability to shift from simple to very challenging exercises. And lastly, the third thing, we have to implement a new strategy of walking. Firstly, by exercising and then by tweaking walk itself. So I gave him a lot of exercises that he never done before in movements. These are PRI exercises, but he never done it. What's the difference between that approach that you've been previously having and our work?
The exercises were a lot more intense, which I liked because I felt that's what I needed. So you gave me specific exercises designed for me, and I liked the way that the exercises were designed to pretty much, force my body into the right position again. I've never had that previously, and with regards to what I was getting previously, probably in the space of 2 weeks, 2 sessions, two different variants of exercises, I probably had more exercises off yourself than I'd had in my whole 2 years with somebody else. So that just gives you an idea of how sort of intense the therapy with yourself was compared to, somebody else. There just wasn't anywhere near enough movements and exercises and techniques to get me back to where I needed to be.
If you have a chronic pain in your body or postural asymmetries that you've been dealing for years, I can potentially help you out in the same way I did with Mike. Firstly, you have to email me directly and describe your situation. I have to evaluate whether I can help you out. I'm not working with everyone. And if so, I can potentially initiate with you the online coaching services. 5 days from now, I'm going to keep some small discount in regards to all my services. It's not going to be indicated there, just hit me up with the message and I'll tell you what's up. Let me put you back on track as soon as possible.
And then the other thing with yourself was we talked a lot about the reasoning as to why we needed to do these things. So you didn't just tell me what to do, you told me why we need to do them. So slowly over the period of my time with yourself, I've come to kind of understand my pattern and my body and what I need to do in order to make sure I'm not picking up bad habits and reverting back. And so that level of understanding about why I'd ended up where I had done and which muscles were working, which weren't, what we needed to turn back on again, all this kind of stuff, that was essential for me personally because without that level of knowledge, I probably wouldn't have done as good a job as what I've managed to do. I'm in a place now where general day to day, I don't even notice the pain anymore. So for me, it's completely changed my outlook on the rest of my life. Really, now I can do everything. I can take my child out. One of the bigger things for me was taking my child out to learn how to ride a bike, and it involved bending over and my core muscles stabilizing him while he was riding, and I found it challenging, and it was sad for me because I was thinking, God, I can't even take my child out and teach him how to ride his bike because my body won't allow me to do it. Now my second child's just learning how to ride his bike, and I have no issues. I can take him out for as long as he wants, and I don't wake up the next day in 7, 8 out of 10 pain
Like it was before.
like it was before, where then I'd have to spend the rest of the next day, pretty much not doing a great deal, and in a bad mood because my pain levels were really high. So for me, I can't overemphasize the way that it's changed my life and my potential future life going forward.
Let's quickly review the exercise that will help you to drop the right pelvis down properly and to start treating process from unpinching your right buttock.
Now it's going to be a tricky exercise. It will require a little bit following some specific minor details, but I'm promising you it's going to pay off. So lie on the left side of your body and flex the left leg towards 90 degrees. Place a soft object underneath your left ankle because it should create a subtle elevation of that ankle. Later on, you will press that foot into that object. However, the right leg has to be semi-flexed. It means not as flexed as the left leg, but not fully extended with the line of your body. Something in between those two conditions. A very important detail, the right foot should be anchored with the floor with the right inner arch. After you have established all these steps together, do the following. Round your lower back, compress the left abdominal wall by moving your left hip up, and lastly, roll your right hemipelvis a bit forward so the zipper line will be pointing the left leg. Finally, when you are holding all of these steps together, lift your left knee up and lift your right knee up as well. If done correctly, you should feel the left inner thigh and right outer buttock working together. The most common mistake is to not set up properly your right hip socket. What it means, if you don't feel the right gluteus medius working, but instead you feel tension in your groin or hip flexors, you have to adjust your position of the right hip socket. Once again, round your lower back, compress the left hip up. You actually can place something underneath your left abdominal wall to create that artificial compression. And don't forget to roll your right hemipelvis forward towards the direction of your left leg.
Give it your all, give it 100%, because mine was probably, I think you'll agree, about as bad as it gets in terms of the time and the amount of therapy that I needed, but it's all been worth it in the end. So it's like I say, a short-term effort for long-term benefit, and it has to be worth it. Alex, I can't thank you enough. You've changed my life, in truth, and I'm not understating that. You have changed my life for the better. So honestly, mate, I can't thank you enough.